The laughter was loud, the music brighter than ever, but she sat alone. A young woman in a wheelchair, wearing a soft pink dress, tried to smile as the wedding guests danced around her. Not a single person asked her to join, not even her own family. She watched quietly, hiding her trembling hands beneath the tablecloth. Then, just as the bride threw her bouquet, a voice cut through the noise, calm, strong, and full of kindness. "Excuse me," said a man from across the hall. "I think she deserves a dance too." Every eye turned toward the man, a single dad no one had noticed before, and in that moment, the entire room froze. The grand ballroom shimmered with gold lights. Guests in designer suits and sparkling gowns laughed as waiters glided between tables. The CEO, Richard Langston, one of the wealthiest men in the city, had spared no expense for his eldest son's wedding. But while everyone admired the elegant decor and the 7-tier cake, no one noticed the young woman sitting in the corner by the window. Her name was Emily Langston, the CEO's youngest daughter, 22, graceful, intelligent, and paralyzed from the waist down since an accident 2 years ago. She had been the heart of her family once, full of life and laughter, but after the car crash that took her mobility, the warmth in the Langston mansion faded. Her father buried himself in work, her brother moved abroad, and her mother stopped looking her in the eye. Emily became the quiet shadow of her former self, always smiling politely, but never truly seen. At the wedding, she had come dressed in her favorite color, pale rose, with her hair neatly curled by her nurse. She tried to blend in, but deep down she hoped someone would notice. Someone would treat her like she mattered. Instead, people smiled awkwardly and turned away. When she tried to greet old family friends, they gave quick, uncomfortable nods and drifted off. When the music started, she watched her cousins laugh and spin under the chandeliers. The loneliness pressed against her chest until it hurt. Her father stood nearby, shaking hands with business partners. He barely looked at her. Across the room, at the table reserved for guests from out of town, sat David Miller, a man in his 30s wearing a modest black suit. He wasn't rich or powerful, just a single dad who had been invited because he worked for one of the catering companies that handled the event's logistics. Beside him sat his daughter Lily, a bright 8-year-old girl with big eyes and a heart full of curiosity. While the adults talked, Lily noticed Emily sitting alone. "Daddy," she whispered, tugging his sleeve, "why is that lady sitting by herself? Doesn't anyone want to dance with her?" David followed his daughter's gaze. When he saw Emily's sad eyes fixed on the dance floor, something stirred inside him, the same ache he felt every night after losing his wife to cancer 3 years ago. He knew what loneliness looked like. He leaned down and said quietly, "Sometimes people forget to see the ones who need love the most." Lily frowned. "That's not nice." David smiled softly. "No, sweetheart, it's not." As the night wore on, Emily wheeled herself closer to the edge of the dance floor, hoping maybe, just maybe, someone would ask her to join. But when she approached, the music shifted to a fast beat, and people moved away, pretending not to notice. She backed up, her heart sinking. Her eyes glistened, but she forced a smile. At that moment, the bride tossed her bouquet into the air. Laughter and screams filled the room. The bouquet landed near Emily's table, right in front of her. For a second, the crowd went silent, unsure how to react. Emily bent forward, picked it up, and placed it gently on her lap. A few guests exchanged awkward looks, some even chuckled quietly. "Guess she won't need that," someone whispered cruelly. The words cut through her like glass. That's when David stood up. He placed his napkin on the table, took Lily's small hand, and walked across the dance floor. Every step he took silenced more of the laughter. The music faded as people turned to watch. When he reached Emily, he gave a gentle smile. "Miss," he said softly, "may I have this dance?" Emily blinked, confused. "But I can't." He knelt beside her chair. "You don't need to stand to dance, you just need to feel the music." His little daughter grinned. "Daddy always says dancing is just smiling with your heart." Emily's lips trembled. No one had spoken to her that kindly in years. The DJ, moved by the scene, lowered the volume and changed the track to a soft, emotional tune. David took her hand carefully, and they began to sway, his steps slow, his movements gentle. He didn't pull her up or make her do anything uncomfortable. He simply moved beside her, letting her roll her chair to the rhythm, matching her movements like they were partners on the same wavelength. Tears filled Emily's eyes as laughter turned to silence, and silence turned to awe. One by one, guests stopped to watch. Even her father froze, his expression unreadable. When the song ended, everyone in the hall stood and applauded. Emily covered her face, overwhelmed. She hadn't felt human like that in so long. Her father approached slowly. His voice cracked when he said, "Emily, I'm sorry. I should have been the one to ask you first." She looked up at him, and for the first time in years, he knelt beside her and hugged her. David smiled faintly and turned to leave with Lily, but the CEO called out, "Wait." He walked up to David and extended his hand. "Thank you for reminding me what real class looks like." David shook his hand humbly. "All she needed was someone to see her, sir." As he walked away with his daughter, Emily whispered through her tears, "Thank you, stranger." Lily waved from the door. "You're welcome, pretty lady." The crowd clapped again, and for the first time since her accident, Emily laughed. Freely, joyfully, beautifully. That night became a story the guests would never forget. It wasn't the expensive food, or the music, or the CEO's fortune they remembered. It was a single dad and his daughter who taught everyone what compassion truly means. Because kindness doesn't cost money, it just takes a moment to see the person everyone else ignores.